Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Mind, Your Reality, Your Results, a weekly live show where I speak with an expert in the subject of mindset so you can change your mindset and ultimately get the amazing results that you want in your life. If we haven't met before, my name's Leah Fink. I'm the owner and founder of All Thrive, and I help protect people from the pain of damaged relationships. If you'd like to know more about that, I would love to connect, so please get in touch. But today, I am super excited to be welcoming Carey to the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Excellent. Well, you guys won't want to miss this, and you also have an expert in front of you, so please do feel free to take advantage of this situation. If you have comments, if you have questions, feel free to add those, and we would love to talk about them. Also, if you're watching the show and we're not live anymore, you can still use that comment box because we would love to be able to get back to you after the fact with that. So, Carey, as I like to start this show off, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a vision expert?
Sure, thank you. The story goes that when I was in my late 20s, I was working, like everybody else was doing in the 80s, Leah, the 9 to 5 gig. You got a job and you worked your way up the ladder. And my husband and all of our friends were doing that really well. And I was changing jobs every 2 years because I just couldn't fit the mold. And at one of the jobs that I held, there was a woman who came to speak one day who became my mentor. And she was the first person who said, you can create your life to look however you want it to look, Carey. You just have to be really clear on what that is. And so she encouraged me to take a day with a legal pad of paper and write out in great detail in every area of my life what I wanted it to look like. And so I did that, and little by little, those things started to happen for me. And fast forward 30 years later, I had taught it to so many people within both of my business that I had launched during that time, the importance of having a vision and how to write it like they'd never done before. So that's why people now call me the vision expert, because I've taught this exercise to thousands of people now.
That's amazing.
Yes.
What and something I wonder with that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of words out there for vision and like how you want to see your life. And a lot of people, I'm guessing, watching this or thinking about this would say, well, I have goals. I know what I want.
Yeah.
What would you say is the difference, or what's missing for people, considering everyone has goals for their future?
Right. So when I network and I speak, I ask people 2 questions. First question I ask them is, do you feel like you have a really clear vision of what you want to create in your life? And most people will look at me and say, yeah, I think I do. And the second question I ask them is, if I were to ask you right now to show me on paper in every area, and there's 7 areas of life that I talk about, in detail, what you are creating it to look like with dates on those things. And more times than not, people are going to go, well, yeah, I don't have that. So what I tell them is they have a lovely little someday plan happening, right? Someday I'm going to make that happen. I'm hoping this will happen. Or I call it the hope and the wish and the try plan, right? And so what happens with that is nothing happens really. I mean, people just kind of leave it up to chance, and they're not working on it a little bit every day. And so that's why, they wonder why when New Year's Eve rolls around every year, they're still writing the same things that they did the year before, right? So that's the difference for me. When I talk to people about having a vision, it needs to be writing, it needs to be in detail, and they need to have some target dates on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that whole idea of, if you don't know what your target is, how are you going to hit it?
Right. Exactly. So, and I'm a big believer in beautiful vision boards. There's a whole reason I've got one right in front of me that I'm looking at it. There's power in the pictures in the mind and what it sees. It goes to work at what it sees. But the bigger difference is that I'm looking at these things and I have a plan in place right beside it, where I've broken it down into projects and dates and have been able to reverse engineer the plan.
Yeah, I think this is to maybe the same or a similar kind of trap that a lot of people get in with the law of attraction.
Right.
It's not enough to just say something. That's the first step, is like being clear and recognize you want something, but it's that step-by-step breakdown what you're actually going to do that really is the power behind it.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be monumentally. I have a new app, a new tool that I've started using, that every day it just has me load in 3 intentional steps I'm going to take that day. in whatever category of goals I want to work on that day, right? So I tick those 3 things off, and they could be just super simple things like, one of the people that I coached years ago when I first got started in this was a friend of mine who was wanting to get out of her corporate job and do something different, but she had no idea what it was that she wanted to do. And so I asked her if she could just take a baby step and just reach out to somebody who was in the industry that she was thinking about going into, and just see if she could take this person to lunch and ask them, how they got started in it. Do they enjoy it? What do they like? What they don't like? So it was just a teeny tiny step in the right direction. It doesn't have to be this big monumental thing, which is where most people really shut down, get super overwhelmed.
Well, especially with something like a vision board where people often tell you, put your big dream, put your end dream of your ideal life. Well, I'm not going to say that I take one step and I'm going to be in my ideal life. There's a lot of steps. There's going to be time. There's going to be changes. So that's a really good point about needing to break it down that way to feel manageable in any way and also get you there.
And to feel like you're progressing.
Totally.
It's doing those 3 little things every day, which doesn't seem like you're really accomplishing much because we're so used to in this society taking these big achievements, but it's those daily things that add up. It's the key to success in every area of your life is consistency.
Yeah.
It's doing a little bit every single day, your relationships, your exercise routine, your nutrition, your business, whatever it is. It's little intentional steps every day. Right?
I'm 100% with you. This is when I talk about mental health and mental well-being. This is one of the things I'm trying to get people is to be proactive and learn the skills and take those little steps, because reactive is so much harder. And, to me, it's something like mental health, mental well-being, your mindset and your vision, it's like physical exercise. Hopefully nobody expects that they're going to eat garbage for a week and then eat healthy one day and lose weight. Hopefully no one expects that. They know, okay, I'm going to have to start eating healthier. I should go for more walks and runs or go exercise. And, if we can get that mentality in all areas of life, especially in the, things to convince your brain of, I think we'd all be a lot healthier.
Yes. Yeah. It's scary though, when I talk to people about putting dates on things, when I do, workshops where they're long enough where I can get them to actually start writing. The next thing I ask them when they're done is how do they feel after they've written it? And, a lot of people say, this feels great. I'm loving that I'm seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. I can make some changes in my life. It gives me hope. It gives me inspiration. But the other side of the coin is a lot of people even say, well, I'm scared to death. Number one, fear is, the biggest stopper of all. And it's also very, it's the accountability piece, I think, that they look at and go, okay, now this scares me because now I have to actually go do this. Yeah. But again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's just small little baby steps.
Well, that's exactly the word I was going to use. Is same thing in my work coaching people, that accountability of saying it, putting it out there, writing it, especially sharing it with a group.
Yes.
Can be very challenging for people because it's now, what if I fail?
Right.
What if I don't do it the way I hope it will?
Yeah.
And also that fear I think that people have of what if I do it? Like that change. Think of how good things would be. That's terrifying. I'm so comfortable in my little comfort zone.
There is a definite real thing when we talk about, I think we fear success more than we fear the failure. And that is very, very true. I think a lot of people, when they see it, and especially if they wrote that vision really big and really clear and they got excited about it, they also got to thinking about what kind of a person they're going to have to become and the shifts they're going to have to make in their family life and their friends. And, just a lot of things that it looks really, really beautiful, but they're going to have to make some changes. And that's kind of scary too. Right.
Oh, completely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, to acknowledge as well that all change, even the good stuff, involves loss.
Yes.
Right. It involves loss of your old way of being, or the time, or your recreation or even your beliefs about yourself, right? To do this, I'm sure that you work with a lot of people that have to get over some limiting beliefs about being able to find a vision that they believe in at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if their circumstances they're in right now are challenging. It's one of the things that I tell them up front when they get ready to start writing. I tell them that it's really important that you don't leave anything out because you cannot possibly see how it can happen based on where you're at right now.
Yeah.
This is just where you're at right now. It's not who you are, and it doesn't define your future. And you can, I've seen people, Leah, that come out of just some horrific things just because they made a decision that they didn't want to stay in those circumstances anymore. And that's why the vision has to be so big. It's got to be so big that you are willing to work through the big, I call them the walls. You know, there's always going to be a wall between where you are and what the vision is on the other side. So the vision has to be so big and so powerful. You want it so bad, you're willing to work through all that personal growth and get up over all those walls. It's the only way I built two businesses. With all the things that come with running a business, as you know, there's a lot of stuff that happen and lots of reasons to quit. And the only reason I did not quit when things got hard, especially in my personal life, because I've been through a lot of adversity. I've lost both my husband and my son in the past 8 years. And the way that I have been able to keep moving is because what I'm so clear on is what my purpose is and what my vision is. And it's not about me. The other piece of it too is it's usually, you got to make it not about you, because we'll quit on ourselves all day long. Right. So I just have a very big, clear vision of what it is I'm supposed to be doing here while I'm here. And that gets me through a lot.
I mean, yeah, thank you for sharing part of your story. I've heard it before. It's very powerful. And I guess this would be a great point to touch on as well. What do you see as the difference between vision and purpose? Because sometimes I would say people define those a bit differently.
Yeah. So vision is, you know, what you can create and see in your mind's eye. And it comes from what's going on in here, what your desires are in here. We all have something that we just keeps tapping at us all day long going, really want to do that. I can see it. I get excited when I see it. So when I get people to write their vision and they get really, really clear on what they want to create their life to look like, hidden in there is their purpose. And I'll use myself as an example. So when I sat down and wrote my first vision I was telling you about a minute ago, I wrote so many things around the kind of lifestyle that I wanted to have with my husband, what kind of mom I wanted to be, what kind of relationship I wanted to have with my kids. I noodled some ideas around being an entrepreneur because this was the first time I'd ever thought about doing it. Yeah. Because nobody in my family had ever said I could do that. So noodle a lot of ideas, you know, just things that were popping off my head. And one of the things that I wrote out of the blue on the last line of that piece of paper was that someday I would like to teach this vision and goal setting to other people. And I'm very, very clear now because of everything I've been through in my life. And what I just said a minute ago about knowing my purpose is that it was revealed to me as I started letting things just pour out and starting to see what I wanted my life to look like. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the problem is that we don't listen to what's in here. We listen to everybody else.
Yeah.
And so for most of us, we follow a lifestyle or a career path that we jumped on by default. Right? I grew up wanting to be a singer and a dancer and an actress. My family, you know, patted me on the head and said that was really cute, but you're going to go to college and you're going to get a degree. And that's awesome. I'm not saying that was the wrong thing to do. They wanted me to do that because nobody in my family had ever gone to college. They wanted something that was better for me. So I did that. And as I mentioned when we started talking, you know, I did the thing, got the college degree, got married, got the job. And I just had to jump off of that path. It just didn't suit me. Right. So I found my purpose early on. I'm grateful for that.
Well, that's amazing. And I'm in complete agreement with you about purpose and is the serving of other people. And it's a very powerful tool
Yes.
in order to find all of this.
Yes. But
now that being said, there's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I was going to take us off on a maybe different direction, because I'm
Sure.
aware that we're using our time, and I do want to make sure that people get to hear this, because I think it's important. There's so many ways that people can serve their purpose and get to their vision. I was really curious about what those 7 life areas are that you talk about,
Right.
that you think are the ones people should be looking at.
Yes. So it's 7 F's. The first one is your faith life, whatever that means for you. Yeah. Second area of life is your family life, of course. And right after that would be your friends. Yeah. And then your fitness and health. Yeah. Then finance and field. Yeah. And then the last one would be fun, an area of fun, which we usually forget about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting bogged down by life.
Yes. Yeah. I, for one, when I started using this tool that I was mentioning earlier with the app and the digital platform, it had me answer 10 questions in each one of the apps to see how I was doing in those areas. And at the time that I took this assessment, Leah, my fun life was non-existent because I was in the middle of a move. I had a lot going on in my life. And so it just revealed to me that I had to put that in my little daily, okay, once a day, am I doing something just for fun? And it doesn't have to be, a 2-hour or all-day thing. It could be just take 5 minutes and just do something you enjoy doing. Yeah. Right?
Now, is that what you'd say most people tend to have not the biggest challenge with, but haven't considered? Or is there another one that really stands out as this is the one where people kind of,
Yeah, it's kind of all over the map, just depending on the person, of course. But I think finance is a biggie. I think most people, money is a problem. It could be just the money mindset. It could be how they're doing with their money and managing their money. It could be that they're needing to get out of debt. Finance is usually a really big one. And then I would also go into telling you that I think it's also in the area of friends, which kind of surprises me. But when I start talking to people about making sure that the people that you are spending the most amount of your time with are the 9s and 10s of your life. And what I mean by 9s and 10s is that they are always positive, encouraging you, believing in your vision, reminding you how great you are. The 9s and 10s sometimes are people who might even be mentors to you because they're a little bit further ahead, either personally or professionally, right? And so when I talk to people about making sure that the most amount of time you're spending with are the 9s and 10s, a lot of people need to make some changes in some of those relationships, and that is really hard.
Yeah. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head for my entire business, is helping people figure out the skills to have those healthy relationships. And I don't remember if I've used this metaphor on the show yet, but a metaphor that I was taught that I really love is this idea of basement friends, sofa friends, and balcony friends.
Yes.
Right. So your basement friends, unfortunately, I think this is a lot of people's experience of the majority of their group might be those people that keep you down.
Yes.
They'll pull you down. They're the ones that are going to say, that dream's too big. You're not going to make it. Do you really deserve that?
Yeah.
They just keep pulling you down. But also dangerous, I think, are your sofa friends. And the sofa friends are the ones that are willing to sit there with you, maybe have a fun time, but there's no growth. There's no challenge. Mm-hmm. There's no pulling each other up. It's just existing. And what you're talking about, which once again, totally agree, working to help people get there, obviously with my work, is get some of those balcony people,
right? Like
you said, the people that are there cheering you on, encouraging you. I would also add giving you the kick in the butt when you need the kick in the butt.
Yes, that's true.
Those are such important people to have in your life, and it's so sad that that's maybe a really tough place for people to figure out how they're going to do that.
Yeah. It is because, again, some of these people that are in their life have been there for a long time. Sometimes you're even blood related to them or married to them. It's challenging. But I have to tell you that when I taught this exercise to people in my workshops around moving some people around, it's the one thing that I hear the most feedback on from people coming back to me later saying, that front row thing that you taught me about the 9s and 10s, that's made all the difference in my life. when they do it. Yeah. Power of association is huge. Yeah.
I fully agree. It's, whatever you're surrounding yourself with it's going to foster your beliefs. It's going to foster your worth. And yeah, we do take, unfortunately, a lot of external validation as humans.
Yes.
Maybe not unfortunately, but it's unfortunate if you are not getting it and you really need it.
Yes. And I like what you just said a minute ago, that some of those people should be the ones that kick you in the butt when you need to, I have to honestly tell you that the people that I have always gravitated to the most are the people who saw me beyond where I see myself, and they are loving enough to tell me what I need to hear. And it's not always fun stuff to hear, but I do appreciate it, because I do know that they're telling me because they truly see me at my higher self and want to help me get there.
Oh, yeah. I'm 1,000,000%. That's feedback is a huge part that I help people with in relationship, because it is daunting on both sides, of course, and helping people both see it as an investment in relationship, like you spoke of. You have to care about someone enough to do it. And then also this piece of, seeing something external to you and be willing to say it, builds so much trust in a relationship. Like, if I know that if I do something that's not helpful in our relationship and you're going to call me on it, it actually gives me much more freedom and trust to show up, because I know if something's going wrong, you'll let me know. Like, nothing's worse than the friend that's all smiles and then suddenly out of nowhere they tell you how much they hate you and you're going like, what the heck? You said everything was good.
Yes. Yeah. I don't like those sneak attacks either. They are, the reason is because it does build distrust, because once that is broken, every relationship you'll start looking at it going, okay, are they really telling me the truth, or is there something they're not telling me? Yeah. That's hard to live with.
It is. And that is why I value those kick in the butt people.
Yeah.
Now I do want to make sure before we kind of close too, for people, they're looking, even if they don't have the chance to work with you, which I definitely recommend people reach out and connect, because you are an amazing resource for this. But even if they don't, we're starting to plant the seed today. When they're thinking about those 7 areas, do you have particular, questions or ideas that you'd like people to start contemplating that would get that ball rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I get people to do, again, remember we're talking about dates, right? So what I ask them to do, if they're going to sit down and write these things out, is to date that piece of paper that they're writing on as if it's 3 years from that day. And then right after putting the date, write how old you will be and how old your family members will be if they're involved in your life. They might not be the balcony people, but if they're involved in your life. And the reason I get people to do that, Leah, is because time and aging is non-negotiable, right? We are going to age and 3 years will pass.
Yeah.
And when I get people to do, when I set that target for them, they can now visually see, okay, we've got some life shifts coming here. And are we prepared for those life shifts? And what do we want it to look like 3 years from now? Right. So then we start writing in those categories. So defining, all right, 3 years from now, how old will all your family members be? What would the lifestyle or the dynamics of the family look like? Especially for people who have kids. Every 3 years or so, there's a big shift in the family dynamic because of the kids getting older.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. So that's just a really good visual to look at, is, we don't look ahead, and 3 years goes like that.
Yeah.
Especially if there's a pandemic. The last 2 years have been like, what?
Yeah, time has no meaning anymore.
Yes, right. And then we can look at it and say, all right, I want to create something in our family life that we have always talked about doing, and I want to make it happen before those 3 years come up, or whatever that looks like. But that's the starting point, is I give people a target date, and for them to think about ages. Because then they can really start talking about, all right, this is what I want it to look like 3 years from now. What can I do 1 year from now? And if this is 1 year, what does 6 months or 90 days look like? You see what I'm going? Is that you bring it all the way down to where every day you can look at that and say, what's one tiny little thing I can do today in the direction of that 3-year vision.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you ever have anyone that you work with and you say, okay, like, let's start working, look at this 3 years, and they come back and they're having problems kind of getting that bigger vision? Or is it pretty common that people have a good idea and they just don't know how to get there?
I do have quite a few people come to me and say, wow, I just don't even know where to get started. And that makes me really sad, because it tells me that they have not listened to themselves in a very, very long time. And so it's going to be uncomfortable, because they're probably still listening to all the outside voices of telling them what it should look like. And just start somewhere, just anywhere, just start somewhere. It will grow. If you start writing, I promise you, it will start growing. Just start somewhere.
That's great advice. That is the point that we've been talking about in action. Action is
Right.
the biggest step.
Right.
Have the big dream, then do something to start it.
Yes, exactly. Good question.
Awesome. Well, as we're starting to come close to our time, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with people, or the last aha you want to leave us with?
I just really want people to know, I think a lot of times people, Leah, are afraid to write their vision because life can change. And I am, again, an example of that, losing, half our family over the past 8 years. That definitely was not in my vision. But I don't want people to be afraid of writing a vision, knowing that things can change. One of my favorite quotes is by, I believe it's Andy Stanley, and it's, write your vision in pen, but your pathway in pencil. The vision is anchored in the purpose. That doesn't change.
Yeah.
The pathway can change, and it definitely will. But if you stay true to who you are and what your purpose is, it lines up.
I love that. And just even hearing that, I think, is a lot of assurance for people who are going, I had a plan and COVID changed things, or that,
Right.
like you said, who knows what will happen in the future. Knowing or not knowing, anything could happen at any time. In 5 years,
Right.
are you going to be in the same place thinking, oh, well, anything could happen in the future, not going to put it out there?
Exactly.
Like you said,
Yeah.
there's no stopping time. That's the one consistent. And
Right.
the old adage of best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, and the next best time is now.
Right.
Not in another 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Very good point.
And I believe you have a bit of a gift for our audience as well.
I do. I wrote a workbook called Vision is Victory in 2015. It is on Amazon, but I have a link to the free downloadable e-version. So I want to be able to give that to all of your listeners here today.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. So that link is in the description. So please make sure that you go and that you get that. Also, please do reach out to Carey if you have questions about this, if you want to know more about the app that she's been working with, because there is something to be said. We always have our phones having that reminder, that little, digital conscience who's saying, make sure you're doing what you said you were going to do.
They're always right here.
It's always there. It's always on us. So it's a great place to have that reminder. If you're interested, please reach out and talk to Carey. And I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. It was absolutely fantastic to have you as a guest.
Loved every minute of it, Leah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, take care, everyone. Remember, every thought counts, and we'll see you next week.